Good evening. The first item on the agenda is citizen comment. Any comment or question on items not on the agenda tonight?
On the items on the agenda?
Not Okay, great. Okay, we'll begin then with our standard agenda, and I believe we're going to begin with 45 Hidden Road, formerly known as Art of Darkness. No, Zero.
So what?
So I asked Imai, please, can you recap where we are, because we kind of had a start to last week.
Yeah. So last week, we basically got to reviewing the limit of work for the special permit site plan approval amendment. There were several components to that amendments to the limit of work. Some of them were much more, hard and fast than others. There was, for example, an easement that goes through that had to be included in the limit of work. With expanded the fire department now holding to 14 feet, they have to, for driveways, they have to account for that. There was an area of the septic system, which the original one didn't perk, correct? And then so you had to do
perk, but with the new utility requirements and with the driveway requirements, we weren't able to fit the septic.
Okay, so that's what it is. But all of those kind of tied to kind of pretty hard and fast regulatory requirements of they had to, you have to be so far separated from water lines to septic fields to gas lines. And those, as I heard the board, we were pretty okay with those. It was the ones, then with all of those amendments following the amendments to the limit of work that were basically based around the house and its program around it and its immediate landscaping. So that's what you asked the applicants to go back and take a look at, the house design, siting, and see if they could, shrink their request for amending the limit of work. And so we've met with them a couple times, and they've done that. They have a new set of plans to show you that basically have on the common property line with 55 and the folks to the east, that that limit of work is now holding. The amendment now from the house footprint is to the common property line with 55 hidden. That's
So
the
we'll
only
begin
expanding.
We'll finish off the discussion of the flexible subdivision amendment.
Yep.
And then you have proposed to us some relaxation of your request
Correct.
to adjust the limit of work. We'll get past that very quickly, we hope, and then we'll get on to the site plan review for
Yep.
the home itself. Okay,
Yep.
great. So, again, just to review our rhythm, to take the best use of all of our time, is we allow you to present pretty much uninterrupted. Then it comes to the planning board for clarifying questions, no opinions, no concerns. Then we go to the consultants and we get their opinions or concerns on the proposal. Then we hear from the audience, and then hopefully taking all that into account comes back to us, and we issue further questions or concerns or considerations that we want to discuss. And we'll try to resolve all the matters that may have come up from the residents and the matters that may have come up from the consultants. Okay?
Yes.
So you're on.
Perfect.
Okay. What do you want to start with,
Do
Jay?
that civil first. So I'll go to the so here is the updated limit of work. So we have, you can't really see it. So what we did is I broke this up into, there it is. So what we have is what Ema had mentioned. So we had some asks along this section here, which I broke up into from this section here, which was a total amount of 2005, so about 3,700 square feet of change in limit of work on this side here, all for the new driveway area and for the new truck movement for the actual fire truck coming through that section there. We had the easements that came through here that we had to actually envelop them with the limit of work. Down here we matched the former design. This is the section here that we're pushing out for the actual septic system through that section there. This section here, we're actually pushing our driveway down, so we're actually giving back. So our limit of work used to be up here, we're actually moving it down here. And then we have this section here, for the other part of the design, where this is the drive court that's being put in because of the actual fire truck movement to turn around, to be able to come around. And so this limit of work is along that side there. And so what you're seeing now is the plans that we're gonna present to you. This is the former design from last week or 2 weeks ago. And so these are actually the areas that Imai was talking about. These purplish areas, these bluish areas, are all the areas we're giving back. So the limit of work now along this side, that side, and all along across the back matches the special permit. The only section we had to bump out was this, because we have this section here for the actual drive court, and you can actually see it used to go right along the actual property line. So now we've reduced that, brought it in, so we're saving about 4 or 5 trees along that line now. And this section here used to be 25 feet from that section of the garage. Now it's 20 feet. So I minimized it. We have to do a couple more turns with the fire truck, but we did that to save some of the trees. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what we did is, the other part was that Trevor was just talking about, was that we were on the former design, we actually had this retaining wall coming along the back, where we actually now brought it to the forward. And so now the truck comes up, pulls it this way, then starts making a turn. Instead of going towards the abutter, it's going towards the inner of the actual property. So we thought that was a good layout for that change.
Okay.
Did the footprint change of the house?
The house, and I'll let Trev and Julieta talk about it. So the footprint changed a little bit, and it actually slid down the hill. So it's been moved, it's been dropped 6 inches, and it's been reduced slightly in size. And that's what allowed us to really make that change up here. That was the little changes to the house, the sliding down, was able to really allow us to do that. And then we were able to, because of the septic system, and we actually did a little bit of change here, that there used to be retaining walls that came across this whole section here. We got rid of them, and so that allowed us to bring this limit of work up.
Can you go over the ladder truck turn one more time?
Yep. So what happens, the ladder truck comes in, comes up towards this section here, pulls back, and they turn this way, then they turn, then they turn, then they turn, and they come back around.
It's like a line, it's full. Yeah.
And so they figured that was a better scenario, saving trees in the back and then pulling this from this section here and putting it here instead, putting it towards our disturbance.
Great, so I'm gonna suggest we move to the site plan review and do the full rotation after that. So
Perfect.
even if people have questions on the amendment, we can raise those later.
Perfect.
Great.
So this is the plot plan. So we were showing before. So you can see we have little sections where we have to remove portions of the ledge to allow us for the actual travel area. These are the retaining walls. All the retaining walls are conforming to either, if they are structures, they're inside the setbacks. If they're outside, the zoning areas, they are all less than 3 feet above existing grade or less than 6 feet.
6 feet.
6 feet of unbalanced fill. We have our generator here, so it's actually below a cut wall, so the sound would be baffled by the wall itself. Same thing with the AC units we have right there, and we have space units on the actual deck on that side. Here's the lower walkout area. We have a hot tub section there, small little terrace area, very little lawn area that we have for the project site. I'll let Karen elaborate on that. We did, and this is part of the reason why we were able to reduce some of our limit of work. From the sidewalk, Sue and Leslie had talked about the golf course, and we had talked about trying to see if we could try to lessen the impact on them. So we actually played with this wall. We had, if you recall, we actually had double walls. And we actually had a whole wall connection there. We got rid of all that. And so now it all can be graded and planted. So it's going to look much better from the golf course side. And that's what this is talking about here. So now we have much more area to
Hey, before you
plant.
go on, do you have a context plan? We'd like to start with that.
I was going to let the architect
Okay,
talk
gotcha.
about that.
Okay.
Yeah. They have a lot more data. We provided some of the stuff, but they added some additional information to it. So this is what I was talking about. So by removing this, we were able to play with the limit of work a little bit. We were able to add additional plantings to that section. Our camera was able to do that. So we have the driveway coming through here. We have that gravel driveway pull off. We actually have the coarse asphalt, but this is the actual area that we're gonna be providing all the reservoir for. We have the recharge basin that's offsetting the house and the driveway section, then we have that one little dry well, which is for the foundation. So basically, we're offsetting everything that we're proposing for the impervious area. So this is a context plan, but I'll let Trev go through that from their side. And then at the end, this was the memorial, so we can move over to that. You wanna do the architecturals? Oh, yes, Karen. You wanna? That's easy.
Well, I would like to see, I think we would like to see the context before it, the landscaping.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
'cause
sure.
we got it out of context.
You wanna open up the architecturals? You mind?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So here's the, here's the context plan. We're surrounded by 14 abutters. The size of our house is we've reduced it to 6,943 square feet. You see it right here. It's kind of in the middle of the range of houses that are within the direct abutters. The low is 3,329 square feet, and the large house is 11,300 plus 51 square feet. So ours is roughly in the middle. In terms of RFGA, we're at 8%, which is, as you can see right here, is a little bit under the middle within the 14 houses that are direct abutters.
Good choice. Can you just walk through the homes quickly? Immediate side?
So, I mean, I think one of the largest houses is immediately to our east. That's 103 Rolling Lane. It's the 11,000 plus square feet, a relatively large parcel.
And you're pointing directly to the house on that little dot.
That's right there. That's this one right here. Yeah. 95 Rolling Lane is behind us. That's one of the smaller houses at right here at about 3,500 square feet, I think. 3,000. I think that's like down here. Can't read. I think this might be at 3,524. Then this is 55 Hidden, which is, as you know, very close in size to ours. It's about 6,700 square feet, if I remember correctly. And then this property here, which is, I can't read that. Is that 29 Rolling Lane? That's a relatively small house, but then the houses here, 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 and here are all much larger. And of all the houses that have been built since 1959, all of them are either at or larger than the house that we are proposing. It's only houses that were built prior to 1959 that are under 6,000 square feet.
And the house just to the left of them, I think you guys.
Right here?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's 29 Hidden Road, and 29 Hidden Road is, can't read what we have here. 3,500, perfect. Thank you. It is, that's a good point, it's two separate structures here. It's a little unusual. Okay.
Landscaping?
So, I know Jay went through all of this, but we pulled the house away from the buffer zone.
Everybody can see it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay, I'll step one. So, when we started, we had, is this the one that?
It's the top one.
It's the top one? Okay, so when we started, we had pushed into this buffer area, and after having discussions with the last meeting, and also with Imai and Kim and Dave, we've pulled the house away from that, so we're not only 50 foot of a buffer, but we're really 55 because we're inside of the original no disturb zone. So we've left most of this, we haven't taken down any trees in this area, and we've added 9. So we're plugging in, and you can see over in here, for the audience, where these are the existing trees that are there, and the evergreens that I'm showing are new ones, and they're plugged in between where the deciduous existing trees are. And from when you see, this is the house up there, and it gives a pretty good block for them for viewing our house. And our house is lower down, so they're actually gonna look over it. And it's also not a green wall. So they're not, it's not like a marching row of arborvitaes across the back. It's really kind of plugging in the woodland to make it remain feeling natural, but also give some screening for the neighbors to the new house. Along the interior property line, we've also plugged in some evergreens to buffer from the new house at 55. And again, we've left trees along this corner. By pulling the house down and by tightening up the parking court, we were allowed to we saved another tree in this area that we were gonna take down originally because we're not grading back in there, so that's pulled down. So I think this buffer is really strong. On this side, we again have pulled inside, slightly inside the no disturb line. We haven't really added any here, but we haven't taken anything down. All along this front area, we haven't taken anything down, and that's where the septic is gonna run through the existing trees. And we've also added some deciduous trees here. This is the lower side of the slope, and we're putting in some tupelo, which can take it if it's a little bit wet, and that's at the low end of the slope. They're deciduous trees, so that in the summer they're gonna provide some shade for this area, not really up on the deck, but they're gonna give some shade and some screening in the summer, but in the winter they're gonna allow viewing through for the homeowner. And they have such great fall color that, it's gonna benefit anyone who's walking on the golf course. Coming down, kind of talked about this end. This planting here is to hold the slope, as Jay talked about. We got rid of walls down here, the landscape walls that we were using, but we still had to grade, and this is a pretty steep slope, so we're using Rus aromatica, which is low growth sumac, which is a small low plant, but it tip layers and spreads and will hold the slope really well. That also has a great fall color. So that's being used in this area, and this area is a repetition. We're trying to use mainly native plants, but also kind of masses of plants. So it's a combination of native and massing. So below these walls, where it's also a little bit steep, there'll be ground cover, and then there's some birches that are planted in here so that they'll get pretty big, but they're also going to be that balance between screening and filtering. And then starting up at the driveway, we have planting at the front that has some dogwood trees and some shrubs underplanted. Along these walls, there's ground cover in between the driveway and the wall. Along this area, we thought this was a really important area to screen because this house is fairly close to where the driveway was going to be. So when you come in the driveway, it's not such an issue when you're coming in the driveway, but when you're going out the driveway, we wanted to make sure that we blocked headlights going into that property. As Jay said, we're really trying with this plan to maintain some of the site features that are really cool, like there's the huge ledge that's both here, and up in here, so that's how we came up with this driveway design. But the design of the driveway is also beneficial to our client because you come in and you kind of get a sequence of events as you arrive to the home. So you're coming in and it's kind of closed in, and then you get some open views to the golf course, and then when you come here you get open views to the house along the drive. So try to make that a nice experience. Mainly the trees that we've used are some of the standards, Aves concolor, Picea aves, sugar maple, Betula nigra, the heritage, some dogwoods, some large shrubs like Escos partiflora, and think that's about it on the landscape. The lighting, so when we first came in to meet with, sorry, I tagged my plan this on to show because I had so many. So when we first came in, we had 21,600 something lumens, which of course didn't go over well. But we've since reduced them, and also I think made it kind of a nice, it forced us to have a better design on the lighting. So there is one light that is up at the front on a wall, an architectural entry, kind of where your number of your house is wall. And then since we have all these retaining walls, we've used them along the drive, and we do have a long driveway. We're using little small kind of puck lights along them, and those have 4 lumens each. So it's just kind of to give some direction and some glow to those walls as you go in. There are some 4 lights along the pull-off for the fire truck, and those are also really low lumen lights, but we're going to put them on a granite post, so they're like a bollard. And they're all facing away from the golf course, so they won't really affect anyone out here. And then there's just a light on either side of this wall when you get to the parking court. And again, we're using on this wall and on the back wall and walls down here, the small little puck lights that are low on the wall that are just giving a glow to the space. But they're really all dark sky, and they're all really low lumens. And the fixtures that are on the house are also really pointing down in dark lumen. And we brought the lumens down to 1794. 17. So, and there's one light in the spot.
Just cut sheets of them.
Yeah.
How low would the puck lights be mounted?
Well, they'll be probably, depending on the wall, right? They'll be partway up this wall because you want them a little bit above where
Snow.
mostly snow is, right? And then out along here the same, but out along this wall, they're really kind of be partway up the wall. They're not maybe this high. The walls are kind of high, and they're all facing down. So
So they have a shield.
they have a shield. Yeah. So, oh, and there's 2 path lights out in the back. Any of the lights that are, there's several, also I didn't mention these, there's some lights underneath, on the lower deck here, the lower terrace, there's a cantilever deck that goes out over the terrace. And underneath that is where we're gonna have the outdoor kitchen. And so we have some lights that are down lights underneath that for, you know, working in your kitchen and having dinner. So the lights that we're using, these are, those are the, I said they were puck lights, but they're rectangular. These are the lights that are along the walls. And then there's some that are on a wooden step that are half the size of that. There's one place where we have wood steps and we need to light the steps. This is the light that is the sconce on the house, so all the sconces are the same. And then this is the light that is the spa light. Spa. And then these are these 2 lights.
That's a hot tub, you mean?
Yeah, these 2 lights are the lights that are inside the kind of gateway to the parking court and the bollard.
And what are the dimensions on the rectangular puck light in the corner?
This one?
Yeah.
This is, what is it? Ish.
There's like 7 by 7.
Yeah.
Okay, so there, when that comes up, okay.
Yeah.
This one is bigger. These ones are smaller.
Those are the ones on the parking.
Yeah,
The upper one is 7 by 7,
yeah,
All
and
right.
the one below I think might be a little shorter.
yeah.
You done?
I'm done.
Great. So any other, I think we have some questions stacked up here. Sue, did you have some questions? Yeah, let's just, not the whole rhythm, we'll just ask some questions and continue.
One, I love your statement, balance between filtering and screening. I'm gonna use that a lot more. It's really wonderful. Can you just show, where's the bottle brush buckeye product?
Oh, the Buckeyes?
Yeah, because we don't see that used often, and I think it's true.
So they are this here. So behind, so this is a narrow, kind of hilly, dry area. And above the wall, this is a whole suite of bottle brush buckeye. So they'll be stunning when they mature because they flower at a really different time than everything else. They flower late in the summer, and they can take that condition, they can take shade, they can take sun. And around them are, you know, one of the evergreens, and then a maple, and then some more evergreens, and then it kind of swoops down there.
Cool. And you did mention an entry wall at the number. What exactly will that look like?
So
We have an image of
these
this.
guys have
Can
an
I see
image.
that? Just, it isn't, that, like, it's not a 6-foot granite post with lights and
It's a
everything
low,
else on it.
wall.
Subtle.
Yeah, it's to give you a hint of what the house might look like when you.
So where's the
How big is that? That is
That's a thin road,
that is a,
So it's, you know, like 36 inches high.
and how long is it?
how long is it?
Looks long. I think it's 6 feet.
Yeah, that's a,
Where's the light?
that's a bigger sign than
this is-
monster.com.
It's a piece of granite so that projects the stone, so the lights.
It's like monster
that to
duck.
watch
The light.
I think we'll want to talk
The
about
light-
that.
want to
You
talk
show
about
those.
We'll talk
The
about
light on that is a ribbon
Oh.
that's
It's not the
just.
light, it's the corporate appearance of that 6-foot stone.
Yeah, it's a LED, low voltage, low lumen strip that's just hidden in that. So I don't have a picture of that, it's just a strip.
No, it's not that, it's the actual size of that structure. Okay, next, that's mine.
Steve, any questions at this point?
Not right
The reworking of the wall, which is great, is any of that the existing wall that's staying in place, or is it all being removed? I mean, all being relocated and moved, and the stonework, et cetera?
Are you talking about the path wall?
I'm talking about the lower area where you were able to take back the continuous stone wall. I thought
Where
on the
this
right
double wall
side
is?
here, there was, yeah, right where you just ended up.
Yes, so there's some of that existing wall that's on site, the cobble
Right.
wall. Yeah, so we're gonna reuse some of that.
But are you able to reuse it in place, or to just relocate it?
We'll have to relocate it, that'll be part of
Okay, alright.
that lower wall. That's not there.
Okay, and the bypass of the, for the fire truck, is both of that asphalt?
This
Yes,
is a gravel or
it is
Yeah, it'll be gravel,
okay.
correct.
crushed stone. This area in here, which the fire truck doesn't go in anymore, that's also pea stone, and this is reinforced turf.
Okay.
Alicia?
I have a question about the need for the special lighting for the turnoff for the fire trucks. My experience with fire trucks is that they're very well lit. And I'm wondering why you need special lighting there.
More red color, right?
Well, I think that this turnoff will also be used if there's 2 cars coming and one has to pull off. And I think that also, because it's 2 different materials, that having it lit will make people know where to drive.
But show me
Safety
on
issue.
there, it's where the lights, which the lights will be on
So, there's a
on
light,
the asphalt side or on the gravel side?
they're on the gravel side. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here, and there's one here.
I think it's over there, that's my opinion. That's area, so, it's a
Okay.
driveway, so that's just my
All
opinion.
right, but we can get into discussion.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, I have a few questions. Since the average grade, you brought it down, this is, how do you do with your amendment? You slid the house down the hill, so the average grade changed, do you know that?
Correct. The grade plane dropped,
Okay.
3/10. But actually, because we dropped the house half a foot,
Exactly.
we actually got better, we got closer to the actual grade plane by 2/10.
Okay,
So we're
so
actually lower,
the elevation of the house has come down.
Come down,
By how much, just about?
it's actually 6 inches total,
6
and it's
inches,
actually,
okay.
2 inches closer to average grade plane than it was
Okay,
before.
good. And then I heard RGFA got smaller. From what to what? Can I just ask
It was 7,074,
774?
and it's 6,943.
6943. Okay. And there's no question this has reduced the impact to the
Oh,
neighborhood,
yes,
right?
yeah.
That was the point of it.
Yeah, the sections that they took out and actually took out a good width of the house, quite a few. So that, with that, and it allowed us to slide it.
And I'm just curious, what hole in Weston Country Club is that?
It's the one right across the street.
Sixth Green, I think?
Is
It's
it
a
six?
Six, yeah.
Which
That's what I
direction?
heard.
Is it a hook or a slide stick? It is number 6.
It'll be a hook.
It's a,
More, there'll be a hook. So, more seriously, have you worked with Weston Country Club on that?
We noticed them, or
Oh, okay.
we noticed them.
So you haven't had meetings?
We actually, yeah,
Right.
so they know we were actually doing this because we actually talked to them about trying to get access from that,
Okay, gotcha.
from that area to do the soil testing.
Okay,
So they do know that we're doing the work.
okay, gotcha. All right, that's all I got.
I have a question. Do you have any plans that show the before and after? You know, like what it looked like 2 weeks ago versus today that you could flip back and forth
well, that
between?
plan
Or,
that you had up before.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
a site plan?
Yeah.
You mind if you go back
Yeah.
to civil?
Pretty colors on it.
You all did a lot of work.
So this is the plot plan, so what I can do is, we can also go to I actually have the file from the last planning board, that shows that if we wanna go forward to the site development plan from the last hearing as well, but, so basically what we ended up doing was,
Go to the earlier one first, I think that might be helpful.
oh, okay. Imai, can you go to the 10-2 folder?
He's looking for an A-B.
Yeah.
Well,
So this was the original design here, so you can see the walls along this side here. You can see this expansion house. This is the 25 feet from the actual garage. You actually see how we had a lot of double walls. We actually had this as a triple wall over here. This was the double wall, so this is the section that we got removed, and we actually pulled the wall up a little bit. This whole section of wall got removed from the design as well. So here was the grading with everything that's going on. So you can see how we really pushed the limit of work up through here. We were bringing the utilities up around the back side of the house. We were saving some of the trees, but there was a good amount of trees that were getting removed in that section there. Predominantly, the drainage is identical to what between the two different designs, but the limit of work and the grading and the tree removal up here is significantly different. You can see this is the section I was talking about where there's the additional wall down here. So when we got rid of this wall, we were able to bring this limit of work corner all the way up. So that was one of the gains that we had. This whole section moved in when we brought this wall in closer to the house. That ran right along the original approved, and then the approved was along this edge here, and that's how we brought everything down through here. So all these walls, the sliding of the house, pulling this all the way down, allowed us to bring that limit work all the way along that section there. You want to go to back to the.
Okay.
So now you can see there's the big difference, right? There's that, now we have that one single wall system here. This is much closer to the house than it was before. We have a single wall system here, so a lot less walls through there. There's the removal of that wall on that side. Here's the removal of that section wall that we did down through that there. And then this is where we originally had this all the way down here. We brought it all the way up. So now you compare the two different designs. This is where we brought in the limit of work. This is where we brought the limit of work in all the way through this section here. So all that square footage went back to meet as much of the approved special permit as we could.
And what's the math on trees removed versus added?
So that, I like
So we're removing 78 trees and we're adding 90.
Okay, and you said with it sliding down the hill, we saved at least one tree?
We saved, in that upper section, we saved like 6 more trees.
Oh, great.
That were gonna come out.
We totally
Significant
take
trees.
7.
And we saved 7 because there was another little one up in the corner
Okay.
right before we pulled the turnaround part in.
And that tree removal too is lower than what actually the meridian plan showed.
Yeah, the original number of trees in the previously approved subdivision plan was 92. So we're reducing the number of trees being removed to 72.
Right.
So I'm sorry, 78.
78.
And then, of course, we're augmenting it with 90 new trees plus
Right.
shrubbery.
So all arrows pointed in the right direction.
Right.
Okay, ready to move on to architecture?
Now you're on.
Sure?
Yeah.
And then the second one.
I think we can skip through these.
You got the,
Orientation plans, everybody.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Everybody knows these.
You gotta withdraw that. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see the whole thing.
All right, so everybody's familiar with site orientation. This talks about the tree removal, which we just touched on.
Yeah.
So here are the site sections through the proposed house in its new location. So across the top is this is the east. Well, actually, this is section.
Those are both through 95.
Yeah, so these are the sections through 95. So these are north-south. The top one is looking west. The section cuts through the second half of the house where the master bedroom, family room, and dining room are. And that's the two-story portion of the house. So you can see the relationship of the two-story portion of the house to 95 rolling. This is the property line. That's the limit of work line. And as Jay and Karen have talked about, the house is actually 5 feet in from the limit of work line. So the house is 55 feet from the property line to 95. And then this is a section looking to the east where you can now, is cut through just to the western side of the garage. So you see the garage here, that's the entry to the house, that's the two-story portion that you see on the other side here. And then beyond is the family room, dining room, and master bedroom dropping down the slope there. So again, 5 feet from the limit of work line, and then 50 feet to the property line. And you can see the base elevation of 95 and the height of the highest point of our house here, which is 1.5 feet under the 32-foot limit.
And the red line notes existing natural grade, whereas the black cut line is proposed grade. So you can see where we're cutting versus filling.
Then these are two sections, east-west. So above is the section through our house referencing 55 Hidden Road there to the right. And you can see how the house is set relatively down, which is effectively the existing natural grade relative to 55. And then the section below is cutting across the front of the house, looking back to 103 Rolling Lane, which you can see is much higher in elevation to the elevation of our house. And I think in both cases, our house is lower in elevation to both 103 as well as 55 in road. So here's the front of the house to the golf course, the garage and bedrooms above the garage, a guest bedroom here, and then kitchen, family room, and the master bedroom. The house is a aging-in-place home for this family of 6. So Denise and Ali and his mother live in the house year-round. She's elderly. She is living on the first floor along with them. And then they have 3 daughters that come back to the house frequently. So they're occupying the second floor. But the character of the house is to not only provide a predominant first floor for everyday living, but also to let the house cascade down the hill a little bit and minimize the amount of program of the second floor. So the split between first floor and second floor is like 60-40, actually more like 70-30. 70% of the square footage is on the first floor and 30% of the square footage is on the second floor. Here's the side of the house to 55 Hidden Road. We provided these 2 drawings to sort of emphasize the fact that the house is built into the grade. The view above shows the amount of the house revealed above the retaining wall that creates the turnaround area for the fire truck. And then the lower elevation shows you the full extent of the house if you were standing in the parking court looking at the house. Here's the view of the house from the back to 95 Rolling Lane. Again, the upper elevation is showing what you would see the house above the retaining wall, that the house is cut into the grade. And then if you were standing in the backyard here, this is what you would see if you're down on their property standing in the yard versus up on the property line looking across at the house here. And then this is the elevation to the east. You can see the retaining wall that's accomplishing the drop in the house relative to the existing grade, the small backyard here, and then the drop of the grade in the house sort of dropping with it. Here's the walkout basement and the lower terrace. Here's the master bedroom here. There's the two-story space beyond, but this is the roof line of the largest portion of the first floor. And then here's just a more technical drawing of that back elevation to 95 to sort of set the ground rules here, I guess. This upper line is the maximum building height for a sloped roof structure, 37 feet. Here's the maximum roof line for a flat roof structure at 32 feet. You can see that our highest point of our house is 1.5 feet below that, but it is sloping away from that highest point. And you can also see that every roof line is further below that 30 feet 6 inches. And then what we thought was meaningful is that we did sort of this calculation of what is high and what is low, and you can see that the gradation from the highest point here to the lowest point, and the area here is the smallest point. And if you look at a roof plan of the house, the darkest section is a very small percentage of what is 30 feet 6 inches. And everything else is immediately dropping down to the point where this portion of the house is, it's like 7.5 feet below 32 feet, so it's at, what is that, 22 feet 6 inches.
Yeah, if you were to combine, get the average of all the roof heights, the average roof is 21 feet.
So here are some renderings of the house. The upper left is the arrival at the court, parking court from the driveway. You can see the garage, and then the two-story portion, the entry is there, and then the rest of the house sort of cascading down the hill. Here below is the view from the golf course looking back up at the house. Here's a view up here, standing in the backyard. You can see the retaining wall. We eliminated the terraced retaining walls. We had 3 previously that sort of stepped things back a little bit. We've now reduced it to a single wall. And reduce the size of the backyard in order to accomplish pulling away from the limit of work line. But I think you can see that it is intentionally nestled down into the grade. And then here's a view as if you were to stand on our property at the top of the wall looking down at the house. Here's a view just sort of more down at the bottom of the property along the golf course. Here's our too big entry wall.
There you go.
And we're happy
the program already.
Yeah.
we're happy to make it
tomorrow.
smaller. And then these are just the technical elevations of the house that we showed you with the renderings.
Are the garage doors glass or are they solid? I couldn't tell by the rendering. They look a little like they were glowing.
Yeah, they're laminated white glass.
So they're translucent or?
They're translucent, yes,
Okay.
right. Oh, yeah, and then all the way to the end. So here's, we thought we'd finish on this. This was requested at the end of the last meeting, putting the 2 site plans together. We've sort of consulted with the design team of 55 and merged our 2 site plans and landscape plans, and here it is. So we can answer any questions relative to the 2 houses together.
It'd be great if we had that. I mean, it's a lot to take in at this scale and this distance. I don't know what we can, or whatever.
Right, so we
Have you and the crew had a chance to take a look at this combined?
We took a look at this drawing when we were doing the second round of review with them, yes.
And
Um,
are there any places where somebody's assuming one thing and the other person's blocking it or vice versa? And we can
it
see.
didn't look like it.
Okay, questions from the board? Steve?
Not at the moment.
I have a question, what is the height of the retaining wall that you show in the backyard? The one that's by the terraced area, I'm just curious,
This one?
because it just shows, vegetation up there and not a fence, and that's why I was curious about its height. Someone else can ask a question while you're looking at it, but I'm just,
It's 7.
so you wouldn't need a fence above that.
Yeah.
No.
Got it.
I would not.
It's that, because it's a cover also from us.
No, just people walking up the end.
People walk here,
So that-
that's
so
what it is,
that-
7 feet.
Yeah. So because there's no walkway adjacent to it,
Yes.
so
Okay.
by building code.
Oh, okay, all right, I'm just curious.
Well, you know, what we're going to do is we're gonna manipulate the grade in a way that it'd be hard to climb up onto it from
Oh, I
the
see.
grade on the back.
I see the cut, yeah.
There's a, and we're gonna finish, right, we're gonna fill that with planting material, so access to the top of the wall is effectively
Tough.
denied or inhibited or something.
I thought my son would take you up on that
I was just
challenge.
gonna say, climbing, you're gonna get that soccer ball. See it
This
now.
family has three girls.
So we're all replacing sumac.
Okay, all right, that's my question.
Yeah, my only question is, do you have a specification for the retaining wall design, or is it just what we saw as fine enough? I'm just curious if you had a slide on the retaining wall.
On material.
Yes, exactly. If you don't.
We don't.
We don't.
I mean, is it
Don't.
veneer or
Yeah.
real stone, or is it, what is it? Or is it?
It's probably a veneer stone on some sort of cast concrete, or cast in place concrete.
But it'll be using real stone, not concrete simulated.
Yeah, and it would be a traditional veneer, a 4 or 6 inch veneer rather than a thin stone veneer.
And what rendering tool did you use? Those were nice renderings.
Lumion.
Seriously, what did you, do you know?
Yeah, it's called Lumion.
Lumion?
It's-
Okay,
Yeah, it's,
so that would be a requirement.
Yeah, we love
All the architects.
Yeah.
Watching, that would be great. Okay, very good. So, to our consultants, Kim, opinions?
The only place that I questioned, if you wanna bring up the
Yeah,
planting plan again.
for the two together would be kind of cool.
Yeah, why don't
Show us
we do
how
that?
Yeah, we just base everything on that. Yes.
Is that, this area right here, and the view between these two houses, and
Okay.
maybe adding in
Couple
a
more.
couple more bedrooms.
That's fine.
Yeah, but everything else seemed great. And one comment about this combined, the two house, 55 and 45 are sort of nicely garage to garage at the
Oh, I
closest
see,
point.
yeah, right,
So I don't think there's gonna be a lot of impact there.
okay, perfect. Okay,
I'm fine with the stormwater and everything except for the entrance side.
Did you try to tell them that?
Always try to- it's
You
gonna take
did.
one mistake.
And they just
focus
wouldn't
on the-
listen to you, did
Just
they?
piling on.
Just piling on. It was so obvious, it was just like, oh, so they didn't listen.
How about just putting up the number without
As
the
far as their
street?
assumptions.
Yeah, and the only other thing, what's the direction we gave early on, both is the border between them. Those plantings, they have the ability to do more there if they want. And
You mean, this is along the whole border, or?
Well,
I'm not sure I understand.
just
Okay,
that line,
that line.
you know, there's, as they, you know, cause that's basically both combatants. And so they both have.
They're both motivated.
Right.
to establish.
There's some,
One another.
there's some baseline plantings there, but, you know, they can augment them too if they want.
Right, their business. Okay. Any questions or concerns from the audience, residents, neighbors? Yes?
I'd like to know how much basement there is and how it'll be dug out.
You should identify yourself for the
I'm sorry, I'm Barbara Keller, I live at 95 Roman
I know,
Lane.
but I just put it on.
So the basement is right here. So here's the garage, right, which is a slab on grade. And then this is all under the first floor here, so it's a combination of storage, a workout room, some bathrooms, a large rec area, and some additional storage under the master bedroom here.
Okay, do you know how deep the excavation is of the back wall?
Well, remember that the back of the garage and
Right.
a retaining wall runs all along here.
Right,
And then this is completely below grade all along here, and the house starts to emerge out of the grade about halfway along the length of the master bedroom. And then this is all above grade and walk out from about here. This is walk out from here to kind of around to there. Yeah, so
so it will be a full excavation under the back part for the height of the room.
correct, right,
How high will that be?
yeah, let me show you that, that's a good idea. So you can see here, there's the basement under the house, and it extends, if you can imagine, if we cut the section through, it would extend back through there and under
Yeah,
that portion there.
right.
Yeah.
How high is the basement?
I think it's 10 feet slab to the first floor, which is a standard basement height,
Floor to floor.
floor to floor. I mean, we've got ledge here, so
Yeah.
plus or minus, this is the desired goal. And then based on what we actually hit once we dig, it may have to get shallower, but the goal is to make it 10 feet.
Any other questions or
And
concerns?
the other question I asked was how it would be excavated.
Probably conventionally using an excavator. I mean, our hope is that there is no ledge. If we encounter ledge, then we'll have to address that in the way that, you know, everybody does. You do a blast survey, and you use blasting mats to minimize the amount of,
Well, I know they
Vibration
blasted
is transferred.
at 55 in here
okay.
years ago and said the rock in this area is really fracturable.
Okay.
So I'm really concerned about blasting.
Well, the methodologies that are used today is they try to mitigate that by drilling and creating cracks in the area that they need to blast, so that when the blast does occur, it doesn't transfer that vibration any further than necessary. And then they use these very sophisticated blasting mats now, which they may not have used as recently as 5 or 10 years ago. And the blasting mats do a really good job to dampen down the vibration from the blast. And the last thing that they tend to do is they blast in pockets now rather than blasting all at once. So they try to blast sections of the ledge, you know, sequentially, I guess is the way you can sort of understand it, rather than doing it all at once.
And they might, correct me if I'm wrong, if they do blasting, a blasting plan has to be approved by the fire department, is that right?
Yes.
And you actually, the board requires that we do even more.
You do, yeah, you do a wider notification, you have to do a wider notification than state requires for us.
Right, it's an involved process.
Very.
Right. Any other questions or concerns from the audience? Yes.
What's the volume of
Sorry, you
the
must identify yourself first.
Swain Hidden Road,
I'm sorry?
29 Hidden Road?
Okay,
What's the volume of the amount of material that should have to be removed, either through blasting or excavation?
Can you put up this one?
Yep.
The first, the 10-2-1.
You can't even see it. trees here on your screen?
Yeah. Proposed cut, you're at, actually, I can't really see it on my screen either. 1905, proposed fill 3271, net fill 1,366 cubic yards.
Yep. Did you hear that?
No, I did not.
Okay, Imai, go ahead.
Yeah. So the proposed cut is 1,905 cubic yards. The proposed fill is 3,271 cubic yards, which gives you a net fill of 1,366 cubic yards.
Yeah. So the other one, I wasn't able to update.
Marginally
It's-
smaller.
Yeah, we went down, it's down the hill, we reduced the grading a little bit, it's in the same ballpark.
Any remaining questions or concerns from the audience? Yes?
The other part of 29
I'm
Hidden
sorry,
Road,
you just-
Ham Swing,
Okay.
how does that translate to truckloads?
So, on this site, we don't have a lot of stockpile areas. So, you're looking at, you're gonna probably get, you're gonna get maybe 30 to 40 yards per truck, on that kind of, for removal. What we wanna try to do is, when we start cutting this section up down through here, we're gonna have to stockpile down through here. So we're probably gonna have twice as many trucks that we're gonna have to use than we normally would for a normal job site, because we can't store as much on site. But the idea is to spread the trucks out through the day. So basically, we stockpile all day long, we get those removed in the morning, no one comes during the day, we stockpile during the day, they come at the end of the night, like that kind of thing. So you're not having a constant, because of the fact that we don't have a lot of access, you have to be perfect with how we actually have the trucks come at different times, so then the trades can come, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, question along those lines, what commitment do you have about maintaining the road and rebuilding it after you've completed the excavation? In other words, we have a difficult problem with the Western Roads Trust and having new builders actually complete what they say they're gonna do.
Yep.
And so we'd really be interested in having some commitment, financial or otherwise, that you're gonna repair the road after you've completed the effort.
So usually what the way, I wanna put words in someone's mouth, but,
It's a private road is the difference here,
Right.
so.
and it's similar to what we did on Meadowbrook, that's what, so I think that you guys would put as a condition that.
We're gonna ask for the survey
We're gonna
again.
video camera the area of Hidden Road all the way down to golf course, so we get an idea of what it looks like now. At the end of construction, if anything's happened since that time, and there's been, potholes, that kind of stuff, then we have to repair what we've. And so we're not just gonna repair, like, we're not gonna put one hole, we're not gonna put one hole.
I would
We would end up repairing that whole area, so.
we'd anticipate repair of the entire area.
Yeah, exactly. So what we'd end up doing, if there's no change, then we wouldn't make any changes.
Yeah.
But if there was some,
So the word we use is baseline conditions.
Exactly.
We survey and establish baseline conditions and they return it to the baseline. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, Bob Keller, 95 Rolling Lane. Excuse me. I wondered about this corner up here. It looked like there were no trees planned for that space, and I wondered why that was.
Because there's already existing trees there that,
Imai, if you want to landscape.
it's hard to see it on that
They're
plan.
funny, they're funny shaped things there.
So, can I use that? So, this is the color, if you wanna see that. These trees are all existing, so these trees up in here
Oh, they're just.
are all existing trees, so I'm not planting in there because it's pretty densely planted. But right in here, these are new trees, and then these are new trees over here.
You're not disturbing them.
So I'm not disturbing these, because they're already established and rooted. But there's some little ones that are growing in, so this area
Pretty full.
is pretty full. And what
Yeah,
I
what's
tried
your
to
opinion?
do with the trees that we're proposing is that, so this is an existing tree, this is an existing tree, this is an existing tree, this is existing, this is existing, this is existing, this is existing. All those are existing, but these ones that are full circles are the proposed new ones that go in between. So when you're at your house looking this way, this is a deciduous tree, there'll be three evergreens around it, so it will give you some screening, but it's not gonna be like a wall. But it is essentially a wall, but it's like one of those shadow box fences kind of thing, yeah.
Okay. And Kim, you're fine with that?
Is that good?
She's the tree lady.
Okay.
So our hourglass is almost empty, so we'll take one more question, yeah?
This is not about the project, it's just about the screen. What is
Okay,
going
if it's
on?
not about the project, I'd like to put it off, if that's okay.
Okay.
It's about the street, did you say?
The screen,
It's
it's sort of blinding.
It's flickering.
It's not just you.
Oh, sorry, I thought you. Sorry, thanks.
Filtering the
Thanks for bringing that up.
It wasn't doing that yesterday with the Concom map, I don't know why.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I can maybe try and use the VGA cable, but it's a lower resolution, but it
Okay,
doesn't
let's
flicker.
stop the meeting and fix the screen and then commence the meeting.
Alright.
Okay, great, so I think back here.
I got one more.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about working with the two houses working together on construction plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna bring up here. That's a great question. So why don't we start there? I'll bring it up.
Well, go for it.
Construction, planning for the two developments, right?
Thank you.
What can we do and what should we do? So, I'll turn to Jay, or Dave, actually, I'd like to turn to Dave.
Well, so speaking to this one, they put together a more, as this site requires, a more detailed construction management plan. You know, it includes off-site parking for the workers, limited stockpile areas, and a full sequence of work, which is not the most efficient way of construction, but actually would be the least
They've been sensitive to the area.
impact.
Gotcha.
And then there's other conditions too, about like signage, no parking signage, project signs.
Okay, so that, what you're
Contact
describing
information.
will be in the decision.
Yes, so there's a
Right,
plan that
okay.
represents
And
that,
then
and
all
then there's like a
neighbors-
condition I gotta
Just to
add.
make clear, all neighbors will be able to read that decision before it's final and.
Yeah, and the plan is part of this set too.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh, the construction plan is actually part of the document.
Yeah.
Oh, I see,
It's a
okay.
two-sheet plan.
Okay. Now, so that's this site. What about the other site and doing it together? That's, I think, the major concern.
So the other folks, again, their site is kind of pre-developed. So they've done a construction management plan that shows like,
It's more modular when you say pre-developed? or-
well, the site's already been cleared.
Oh, I see.
So they have plenty of a reasonable amount of room for on-site parking, there's a reasonable site
It's
of
less demanding.
stockpiling, so,
But now, so what about the timing of the two, I think is the concern. Is
you
there
know,
anything that we can do about that?
I don't know if you can tie one to the other.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm a Band-Aid right-off type of guy, so it'd be nice if they were both running concurrently.
Oh, I see.
And then, the only other thing,
And for the sake of the neighbors, it's supposed to get it all over with at once.
and then, just simple things like, very clear project signage for each one,
Of course
because they're
they
next to
can.
each other.
Condition when the thing is built.
Right. I would also suggest, is to use John Field, because he has quite a bit of experience with project sequencing and construction. And there might be things he could take a look at with the combined plan and with the two construction sequencing plans that are there, and see if he can come up with any other thoughts.
Right.
Because this is going to be happening, I hate to say more and more often, but it will be happening. It would be nice if we had some approaches and process in place, how to strategize this.
Yeah, right.
So if we could take a little time with John Field and the key players, and obviously make sure he's comfortable with it, it couldn't hurt.
Right. I don't think that would be a part of the permitting process, you're saying.
Well, we
outside
should we should put that into there as part of the discussion that it has to be done, needs discussed.
of discuss with John Field in an
Before,
attempt to.
before they proceed.
Right. Again, you mean have John Field issue some approval?
No, I'm saying that it is a touchstone.
Just a
like you have
pre-con
to-
meeting, you mean, or
Yes,
something like
exactly,
that?
thank you.
Just a pre-construction meeting, okay,
Right.
gotcha, that's
And then-
fine,
Right,
yeah,
but
that's a
a
good
little
idea.
bit of teeth in there in case he wants to.
Okay,
move
are you comfortable with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. And then the neighbors could attend?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great.
I have a question.
Yes,
I'm concerned about the parking on Hidden Road. I mean, I'm just,
during construction?
yes. I mean, I don't I assume you've got other,
There will be.
other
There's no parking
areas.
lot, no
Yeah, there's no
parking.
parking allowed, they have to
Okay.
park on site.
And same thing with our deliveries, it's even on our construction management plan, all our deliveries have to be on site. So
Okay.
there's no trucks in the street.
And if you look at their little plan, they actually almost have like a little receiving area for the delivery, so a truck can pull in, and then there's the trailer
Yeah. Trucks and trailers.
where like he'll check in and pull up, and there's a staging area and stuff like that. And then obviously if you walk on 55, it's a little bit easier, as long as a truck pulls in,
Sure,
they have room to turn around.
yeah,
like,
right,
get out
right.
of there.
One of the things I'm not sure about, and I saw, is what happens if somebody does park there? I mean, is that a warning, is that a ticket, is that a tow, what is that?
So we basically go out there, if that happens, one of the building inspectors goes out, if they find them there, you know, I think it's by practice, I'm not exactly sure by code, but by practice, usually they give them a warning the first time. If it doesn't, if it's like repeated, they issue stop works until they get a new plan,
Okay, so that's got good teeth.
yeah.
Right,
I think there's a fine too.
okay.
And you're putting up no parking,
Correct, no parking signs on it, and we have what ours say on either side of Hidden Road.
because it's just physically, you can't do it. Like, there's some roads, like, the landscapers can park on, or even like when I go visit, I can park on the road. This isn't like a road that you can do that.
So the other consideration of the two developments at once is the landscaping between and the buffering
Yeah.
between. So did anyone have any questions or concerns about that? Were they addressed? And
I don't know, some of this we were talking about was going to be field located. Right. And I don't know, it's like, who goes first? Does the 45 or the 0, or do you
I think
together,
the
or?
field location was more to the abutter in the rear.
Okay,
Right,
so
rather than
it's
to
not
the
in
new
your
It wasn't
development.
between
Okay.
the
Exactly.
two
Okay,
developments.
so where Dave was talking about augmenting between the two properties, that's
Which-
something you guys.
We're just giving them more of a free hand
Okay.
Right.
to screen that
Right.
So
as.
they'll have to get together,
Right.
and we'll put the onus on them and the conditions then.
Okay, I think we're down.
Well,
Go ahead.
that wouldn't be a condition, that
Okay.
would- yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard two things. I heard the stone entrance, the stone sign at the entrance. Do you want to leave that?
No, they've already talked to me
Okay.
about it.
Do
They're
we have
very
a,
clear on
do
what
you have
should
a
be done.
sense of what should be
So
done?
what is-
Where we land there?
I think smaller.
Too small.
Yeah.
House much smaller,
How
smaller.
Non-corporate looking.
Maybe just the
More
number.
residential, something that fits in on Hidden Road.
But can we give them a size?
Something smaller than the
Like 2
monster.com sign.
Yeah, like a 2-foot sign.
Or, nice
Size
bold,
of
you have
this,
to dig
yeah.
into the
I think
roof.
Steve's suggestion of why do we have to write Hidden Road out is a
Yeah,
very
it's on
good
Hidden
suggestion,
Road.
really just
Oh, I
the
couldn't
number.
see that.
55.
Yeah, right.
Just the number, we don't need
Yeah.
Hidden Road, Weston
Right.
Mass.
Okay.
Right.
0 to 4.
Isn't it required to say that?
Well, that, yeah.
It's good to write that,
The name of the road out there.
Can we talk about that a little
No.
bit? Can we?
I find it
Are
helpful.
you feeling that way too? The overlit driveway, is there one or too many lights along that curve?
I think it could be reduced a little. Where that car pull-off area is,
Right.
One thing is, if I'm driving, I would tend to follow the lights, and that would take me onto the gravel when I don't need to be.
Yeah, you have headlights too, don't
Yes.
forget.
I know, but I'm just saying that the lights sort of.
I agree with you, it's
okay.
misleading.
It's
and you're
misleading,
gonna
yeah.
feel the gravel when you hit it, when you're driving, you're gonna
It's
be
a
like, whoa,
whirlwind.
off the road. Yeah, that's
Thanks a lot.
Unless it's snowing.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so,
was gonna say, I think that's also for the snow too, though, right? The lighting?
Hmm.
But it's the gravel, so when the person was plowing,
Right,
they will know when it's.
so that they would know where that was too, so it's an indicator. So those are the bollard lights.
Yeah.
So they're on a granite post, and it also is gonna be an indicator in the winter for
That's why,
snow
that's
plow.
why they need snow stakes.
Yes,
That's why there is no stakes.
exactly. But if it's on the outside edge, which it would have to be, otherwise you would hit it with a car or a plow, how will that show the snow plow where to plow? Because he won't be able to go up to the bollards.
Can I just show you where it is?
Stakes, old-fashioned stakes.
Show you where it
Yeah,
is?
stake. I have them.
Our stakes.
If you look at this up close.
That's what we tell them.
So here's, you come in the driveway,
Right.
and you're coming
Make
out,
it
and this is the pull-out. The lights are here, 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 and they're bollards, and they're facing down, and they're not shining on anyone
All right.
else. Their back is to the golf course, and, you know, they're not, no one's seen them, they're just lighting this up so that when, if the snowplow comes down and pulls through here, then he'll know where the edge of this area is. There's a lot of flame here.
do you feel like it's a safety issue?
I feel like it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
disagree with other people? Too much for a driveway.
I would have done with snow stake, but that's the old fashioned thing.
I mean, I can reduce it to
Yeah.
maybe a lawn or something like that.
Yeah, why don't we reduce it, why don't we reduce, that's
Take a couple
25%
out.
less, yes.
Take a couple out, yeah.
So I could have 1, 2, 3 instead of 4.
Okay, that'd be good.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else from the board? Concerns? All right. Thank you for saying.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice
Thank you very
presentation.
much.
Yeah. Thanks for the adjustments along the way.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Where's this house?
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, they might have-
Incrementing up now.
Is this the adjoining property?
Yeah.
I don't think we ever got,
Blocking the
I
view.
don't think we ever got like a touch sheet.
Okay, 55?
Yeah, that one
You see
was.
this one
That
down
one,
the
yeah.
road. But I don't understand.
So I don't think we need to do anything. Once
Yeah.
we need to. Whatever you say, something's wrong. Please come in.
How long is it going to be before you get to the Street Black Oak Road? The second meeting we have.
And you've been through the same thing.
Is that my board?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, so I'm gonna get. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're going through.
We're going through.
Okay, so.
On 55? I don't know what it's supposed to be on 55. I think that's where they, but is that where they asked for the amendment?
No, they had an amendment.
So you mind, we need to move on?
Okay, I'm sorry, we're gonna talk about this later. There's
So by all
something
means,
else
have a
to
phone conversation.
Yeah.
As a follow-up. It feels like
Okay.
there's something wrong, okay? So EMI,
Yep.
why don't you establish the baseline where we are here?
So for 55 Hidden, we had also continued this hearing for the purpose of, I believe, again, looking at the two plans
Okay.
together. But
So
if
we
they're,
felt comfortable with everything.
yeah, but if you folks are comfortable with what
So
55
we
Hidden.
said before we commit to 55, we wanted to see 45.
Yes.
So we've seen 45, and now we've seen it together in a slide. And we've addressed all the landscaping and the buffering issues. And all the drainage issues. So is there any conversation to have here? Are we done?
No, I believe you're done, Dana.
Yeah, I'm
Ready for
ready.
this, yeah.
Okay, does anybody have anything to say? Okay, is there any residents who have anything to say? Okay, thanks for waiting. Appreciate your time this evening. Much faster. I like that. All right, now we're trees, our favorite topic.
Trees.
Trees.
We need to get some tree materials here.
Chris got a haircut. Or he's not wearing a
Yeah.
hat.
No, you shaved too, or something. You look different somehow, Chris.
All of those things.
I'm confused.
I think he's getting there.
I was in the office all day today, so.
I think you got engaged.
That is the arborist report there.
Okay, great.
These are this is the consent agenda. I say that in quotes.
That's good, that's perfect, yeah.
This is just a continuation of what we did last time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so same format as last time. We have the trees we agreed to.
Let me ask you about the
Yeah.
format. So this is the third and final review?
No, there's
No, this is the second, and then there's one more
Okay, this is second of the three reviews.
of 3 reviews. Yeah.
And how many trees in this review did you look at?
Let me bring that up for you right now.
Right, I feel your pain.
We walked about 5 miles.
Oh. That's great.
Yeah, it seems like you haven't seen for a while. It was, we were thorough.
Chris, can you step up?
Sure.
Perfect.
So all told together, well, at least with the agreed trees, there were 83, and
You
then,
looked at 83.
and then add to that the 6 that we're gonna discuss tonight, 89.
Okay, so this is the consent agenda.
This is the consent agenda trees,
And
yeah.
the consent agenda is with the material you're presenting to us already?
Yeah.
This is what you consented to already?
That's what we consented to already, correct. So that's
And then how
on
many trees are we gonna review one by one tonight?
6.
Six, okay. Great. So, do any planning board members wish to discuss any trees on the consent agenda?
Consent meeting, the ones we.
They've resolved it in the field amongst themselves to either keep or.
But you might go back to that one
All
main thing.
83 of those?
Exactly.
Because it's.
Wait, let me guide him, let me guide him. Just go to the numbers, the chart.
This one.
Stay
That's
there.
what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Steve, that's the consent
That
agenda.
we agree to those.
Exactly, they've agreed in the field to do that.
They've agreed to this disposition, it's not that we've agreed to remove 83 trees.
No.
Right, that's what I just
You've
want to
agreed to
clarify
remove
the
61?
numbers.
61 trees.
Correct.
Exactly. So,
I have a
and
question.
take as long as you want to walk through the consent
Can I ask a
agenda.
question? Well, we'll walk here, you want to wait till the walking is done?
Wait a second, I kind of just let people through.
Walking is done.
Lori, Custer's here, but then she. Lori with the. Oh, because she's been too long, okay. For her son. Yeah, I saw her. She could.
Yeah, I don't know why. Is it because they're elm trees?
Are you removing the elms because they're elm trees, or why are you removing them?
Oh, no trees were removed simply because of what they were. They were all
So the
deemed
elms
to
were,
be at
the elms
risk.
were failing?
Yes.
Okay.
We looked at every single tree and its condition and health, and we would not have said just because it's.
Okay, because we think it might die.
Right, no, no, no.
For 10 years
Like
from now.
those-
Yeah, I didn't think that was our motive.
No, we looked at, and so.
And why
we'll-
replant with witch hazel?
That was my question.
Because they're smaller growing, right?
Yeah,
they
because they're
likely
smaller
to
growing,
grow
it
up
could
into
add
the
back
wires.
and, yeah, that
Right,
was.
they wouldn't go right back
Right
up
back
into
up
the
into the
wires.
wires.
So they're one of the approved small growth trees?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what you were.
Which hazel could be called a wood shrub or a multi-stem tree, and it tops out, what, 35 feet to which hazel?
Actually, I think the national champion is 35 feet, so they're much
Yeah, much shorter, they're 20 to 25, yeah, they're well down.
What is the national champion?
How tall would you take it as a multi-stem tree or a shrub?
Okay.
Or a
So I heard,
large shrub?
oh, 35 feet, wow.
Well, but he said that's national champion of the world.
That's the, yeah.
You have nothing but champions.
All right, Steve says, and he doesn't want to say this out loud, that he agrees to everything except the dead ones and we ought to keep those. I don't know why I said that, I'm just repeating.
You can't.
Does she speak for you?
I spoke for him.
Proxy, no?
Yes.
Alicia, you don't have any comments?
No, I think that we looked
She went
carefully
walking,
at them.
yeah.
Leslie,
Did our
just-
very
I
best.
agree, whatever.
Okay, just on the-
I trust the people who walk.
Just on the consent list, Steve, you're still looking through it?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you're good? Sue, you're good?
I'm good.
We tried.
Any questions from the audience? Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
so Imai, we'll wait to take a vote on these, right? After
We,
we go through the five.
okay, yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah, we'll do it all.
Okay, and now we're gonna go through the 5 trees in question. And how are we gonna do that?
One by one,
Okay,
and we, well, actually, what we did last time, let me back up, let's do the same way we did last time. We did a motion for the removals here to approve removal of 61 trees as noted.
okay.
Then we did a motion
Okay,
to
stop
deny.
there. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay, and then there was a motion to deny removal of the 22 trees as noted.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
And it's unanimous.
and then for the ones here, then we did these one by one. We did a
Okay.
motion for each of those. Okay, and then the order we basically did it in was, we asked Chris to give a commentary on it. If, Barbara, you're representing TAG right now, if you have any
Yes, I am.
comment from TAG, give the comment from TAG, and then we would ask our arborist, Clay,
Okay, so we
to
hear
weigh
from
in.
3 people on each tree.
Yes.
One at a time.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, go.
This tree was identified for removal, mainly because it's in close proximity to the high voltage electric wires there on Ridgeway. Also, I believe that those wires are probably in contact with the trunk of that tree for an extended period of time in the past.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Chris, to interrupt you, but that Ridgeway isn't on this list.
You know what, the
Ridgeway's a
Ridgeway,
different visit.
no, we did Ridgeway on this.
Oh, but you just didn't put it on this.
Ridgeway was, this is the one tree that we decided that we didn't need a report from Clay on.
Oh, because it was so far gone, got it.
Yeah, oh, not because it was so far gone, it was just because
It's not a matter of health.
the wound was obvious on
Okay,
it.
got it.
It was more, yeah,
Okay, sorry, Chris, to interrupt you.
yeah.
Oh, no problem. So like I was saying, this tree is in close proximity to the high voltage electric conductor as it is now. There's a wound on the trunk of the tree at the same level of the wires, because I think we're probably in contact with those wires for an extended period of time in the past. That's mainly the reason why we're asking. I think that wound and the proximity to conductors.
A danger.
Yeah.
To workers as well.
Correct.
Do we want to hear from TAG?
Yeah.
So I concurred with that
Okay.
being removed because of the danger and.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, so why is
Well,
this?
we had in the field decided we needed further discussion on this one, I think because of its height and location along the roadway here.
But if it's a safety issue.
Yeah, but I think if we're agreeing now, then.
Okay.
What is it?
It is a,
It's a black oak.
it's a black oak?
It's a black or red oak.
Okay.
Yeah, it was large.
It was
Got a
tall.
nice
Yeah.
canopy and stuff, so I can see why.
I think this was like an
subject to
18, right?
Yeah.
I got it written down here, I didn't believe it was quite that big, but in
Okay.
that vicinity, I would've said like about 16 inch EVH,
DBA.
diameter of breast height.
Right, just for
Four and a half.
I knew that, just for other people.
What dimension? Chris, what dimension was that?
I'm gonna say about 16.
Okay, any discussion from the board? Steve, did you want to comment on this?
No.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
To remove it,
Yeah.
To approve removal?
so moved.
To approve, okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay,
Next tree, sorry about that,
all right.
you lived a long life.
Yep, this is 111 Summer, tree 2019-143. I think this one, it's leaning out there, it's healthy but has an odd shape.
Chris, go ahead.
It's relatively healthy, but certainly in decline. A good picture would have been a shot of the base of the tree, which has been excavated extensively by carpenter rains for quite some time. It's kind of got an odd shape to it where at the base it kind of starts growing out and away from the wires and curves back in over the wires. And
Running away from you.
well, I mean, it probably could be because we had pruned it that way in the past.
Yeah,
instead of,
you're blaming the tree, huh?
well, it's a successful directionally pruning is
There you
what
go.
we call it.
So we can keep it.
The issue being that the rod at the base, I think, is so extensive at this point, and being that the weight of the top of the tree is hanging over those wires, I really want to be able to determine exactly where it will fall, when it does fall, because it is very compromised.
Oops, sorry, I went back right here.
Barbara?
I can show you on, Clay's report does have pictures of the base of the tree.
Right.
This is, yeah, here it is.
Barbara?
So I thought because of the rot at the base, and also it was just not a very attractive tree because of the bend, and then it's hanging over the wires too, which is another bad feature.
Okay. And from the arborist?
So the big question in the field really was where would this tree fall?